Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is exactly what you do when you're making your Word documents, whatever you do. I'm simply going to cut and paste. So I'm going to take the sequence that I've already recorded and I'm going to cut it and paste it and add it on to the end, so we have 6 measures of the tune rather than 3 measures of the tune. So I'll just do that, and because that's why the waveform thing is just so handy, because fairly obviously you can see what you're doing. So, 1, 2, 3. We'll lose the 1, 2, 3. Do this. One measure out. So let's move it along one more. Something like this might happen. To move along one more. So I actually need to move that one and then peel it. And it's going to slip. Yeah. Like this. Okay, so now, exciting, isn't it? So there is, here's the end of the sequence as we record it. Check that, make sure that I have, because I've gone into because we're rigidly recording to obviously a metered click, which is completely on it. Firstly, after you've done this for many years, you get to learn how to play across a click and not rigidly adhere to it. Otherwise, all music, like an awful lot of pop music, unfortunately, sounds somewhat metronomic. Okay, I've long since learned how to play across the beat. So when I actually moved this, I took it out of the grid, okay? So I just need to check that I haven't moved it too much for it not to roughly conform to the click. So we invoke the click for this second sequence and see how close I actually got it. I don't actually care for this. That's fine. So back onto the grid so it can't move. Once you've got it, weld it. Okay, so we're going to put some guitar on this now. So it's this. So to do the guitar, obviously, there's our fiddle. Sticks the same level. So now I listen to the fiddle. And we do a little jolly guitar playing. Pro Tools, which is what I'm actually using here. It's just one of those rather annoying pieces of software which you have to physically save all the time. So you have to be very careful. If your computer is going to crash on you, just remember every 5 minutes to save what you're doing, because you could get so sort of set in it, you could have been working for 3 hours, the computer crashes, and you've lost everything you've done. Or you can piece it back together again, but you might as well start from scratch. So those are contemplating using Pro Tools, which is a fantastic recording system. And the basic version is incredibly cheap. It's £100 for a very powerful, sophisticated piece of software. But just a warning about that, there are other recording systems which do all the saving automatically. lots of variations on the guitar part just to make it vaguely more interesting. But remember, we're not putting this under the microscope, we're creating a piece of background music, okay? So it's purely textural, and it probably won't come to the front of the mix at any point in time, you know. But, right, let's see what happens there. Stop. Workstation, which one?
Called D1600.
Oh yeah, great. Fantastic machine, yeah. I still use a Yamaha workstation all the time in the studio. To be fair, I often mostly use it just as a control surface for, because it's got flying faders and all the rest of it. So, but no, often if I'm going somewhere to record someone, it's actually simpler to take the studio in a box and a good rack of preamps. Basically, those all of those recorders fall down on their preamps. All of them are slightly on the dodgy side. So you are better off getting some kind of multi-channel interface with good preamps, and then just plugging in at line level, making sure that the input gains are wound right down, and that the good preamp do the work. Yeah. Basically, that's the only thing I'd say about workstations. But I've still got my oldest Yamaha AW, which is now 13 years old. I'll be very sad when bits of it finally start dropping off, because it still works beautifully and the specifications astonishing. You know? I will be using it in September to record a local Cayley band, because it's just the easiest way of doing it. The problem with all this stuff is I can't. The laptop's not powerful enough to do a 12-channel multi-track recording. You know, the processor will fall over, so you're forced to bring the big computer and all the bits. And the problem is dismantling a big computer, 2 screens, all the ancillary stuff, carting it around. It's all fragile, as you know. You wouldn't take your desktop PC out all the time because you'd probably break it. The same thing applies basically. So I still think there's a huge use for the workstations. Very, very handy indeed.
I'm not brilliant on the computer anyway, so I sort of struggle to learn it all.
Well, I said that 15 years ago, but once the magic, the magic door is opened, and once you're actually editing, and realising that there's nothing you can't do, it changes your mindset. I'm not very computer literate at all.
Yeah.
I haven't ever been, despite the fact that my only conventional job was operating a mainframe computer in 1970, but we won't go into that.
There is a free download called Audacity, which is like this but without the turbocharger. Yeah.
Audacity, I have got a copy of Audacity.
For a total beginner, I think it's a good.
What it is, it's a very good finished mix editing tool because it edits very nicely and so on. In fact, I've used it in the last 6 weeks just for something. Yeah. But the problem with all, and this, I'll only get too bogged down in this because it's it's mumbo jumbo and it's not relevant to what we're about to do. But your problem, as always, is synchronisation with trying the multi-tracking version of Audacity. There are huge time lags in the overdubbing process, basically, and when I'm huge, I'm talking about milliseconds.
Yeah,
But if you try to build, a massive multi-track with Audacity, very soon you would start to feel there's something not quite right, and you don't know what it is, but it is the fact that things are marginally out of sync, and you can't take stuff off the grid and move it around as cleverly as you can with these sorts of things. But if you're a Mac person, then obviously Logic is the one to go for. But since I started with Cubase, got Audacity, got 2 or 3 others, but just for me, Pro Tools happens to be the one that's got I find the editing tools the easiest to use and the most intuitive. Well, I'm actually very happy with that. I don't want to waste any more time actually recording. I'm just going to create that as a track, okay, and fly it into the film. And then, before we take a coffee break, we'll actually stop all this nonsense and we'll go to the actual thing we're going to do, okay, and start looking at ideas. But this is the easiest way of demonstrating the process, basically. So, if you've never understood how music these days is put together, this is how it's put together, and it's kind of universal, even with the rawest, most acoustic music. Even if you are only doing absolutely live recording, it's all being manipulated in some way, shape or form, because we can. And it is as simple as that. And so anyone who espouses some level of sort of weird purism, about recording, I'll give you the exact historical context for which the whole thing changed. Arthur Rubinstein, the great pianist, he decided I'm not going to play anymore, so he became a celebrated teacher. And I don't know why he decided he wasn't going to give concerts or stuff. So then, when he did his comeback and played Beethoven at Carnegie Hall, within the first 10 bars, there's a howling clunker. He plays an appalling mistake. Apparently everyone in Carnegie Hall, Rubinstein has lost it! Anyway, apart from that terrible clunker, of course, it just goes beautifully, and it's a masterful performance, and I'm sure that Rubinstein, it's just like us going off the road for seven months next year, It sort of, it refreshes the parts, as it were, and it'll be a really good thing to do. And I'm sure it refreshed Rubinstein's parts. However, the point is, of course, that it was recorded. Okay? So the first live recording comes out. It's that agonising debate to actually bring this out, because the recording of the concert was part of the deal, for Deutsche Grammophon or whoever it was. And Mr. Rubinstein's played this terrible clang at the beginning. So there's a live version that came out with the terrible clunker on it, and then sort of a few years later, recorded versions of it start to appear where it's perfect and the clunker's not there anymore. And then the cat was out of the bag. It had been very carefully, with early digital software, it had been very carefully re-edited, notes rearranged, which you can actually do, once you get used to it. It takes a bit to learn how to do it, but once you get used to it, there is nothing that you can't really manipulate. So even after that, the genie was out of the bottle. If they'll even do this with classical music. So now, routinely, classical music is still not recorded in multi-track. Okay, It's still recorded in stereo, but they will do multiple versions and they will go back over sections of music. If the conductor or the orchestra is not happy with a segment, they will simply recapitulate. They'll go back and re-record it, and then, just like I did in the crudest way there, by joining one section of fiddle to another section of fiddle to create something twice as long, they will fly in the good bit. Okay? It is as simple as that. So when you hear one of our records and you hear some diddly bit, that diddly bit was not necessarily played at that time. It may be part of 30 tracks of diddly bits, where we then sit back, we start cutting up, throwing out the ones we don't like, okay, throwing them away, until we're left with the ones that we do like, and then we make choices. But then it doesn't stop there. That diddly bit might have been played in the second verse and not the third verse, but we might think that it sounds better if it works better if it's in another verse. So it may